everyone. Thanks for watching Access Hockey MI. We are wrapping up our draft talk of the 21 entry draft for the NHL Red Wings. The Detroit Red Wings. I mean, both is applicable. Right, yeah. But we're going to talk about the final three that we got as the Red Wings in the draft. And we're pretty excited about it just because it's exciting to talk about prospects. So let's just get right into it. There's not much hubbub today. Sorry if you like that.
We could add more hubbub if you'd like.
That's it.
So our last three picks are actually some really exciting ones that I don't think many people have watched too frequently.
Probably because it's the end of the draft.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody watches the first. Yeah. Here's the hubbub that was missing.
This is the hubbub. So we'll just get right to it. So in the fifth round, we grabbed Liam Dower-Nilsson, who came out of the Frölunda Juniors. So
big shocker.
Yeah, right. He's a centerman, so he was playing with the J20s. He floated around quite a bit in the last season. Obviously, a lot of people did, but he finished out in the J20s. It was a bit of a promotion for him because he was in the junior 18s at that point. So he kind of got bumped up a little bit. He managed to get 17 points in 16 games. So he made the most of his time that he was there, which shows a really good amount of production and focus, I think, especially with how the season had gone. So
yeah, and he's a high-skill center, which is something that both Yzerman and Draper said that they were looking for, just because in the past few drafts and even in this draft, we have a lot of wingers that we've gotten. So, of course, you need the centerman to balance out the wingers. And I feel like the wing is kind of you can kind of make it malleable between that and a centerman, but he's actually a center. And Draper also did say...
for real, he's a center.
That's his position. Draper did say that it's really a coincidence that they choose so many people from Frölunda, but...
Coincidence.
I mean, it's working well for us, and we've gotten so many great guys from Frölunda, and we love the Swedish leagues, so it's really great to see another guy coming through. He's a good size as well. Everybody that we're going to talk about today, I believe, is either 6 foot or over. So I feel like that's a good size, and as long as they can skate well, as long as they can get that under them, which is something we always talk about.
But always going to gain weight.
Yeah, they will. That's the whole idea of development. So he was actually the captain of the U18 team for the World. So that's a pretty exciting thing as well. It turns out we actually drafted 3 guys who were captains at one point. Yeah. So I think that just speaks to their leadership, the compete level. And he also is said to have a very high hockey IQ, which is also great.
Ideally, if you're playing hockey professionally, your
you
IQ
know how to do it.
One thing with his ability, so there was a lot of highlights about his leadership qualities, his IQ, not a whole lot of talk about his actual physical abilities. Yeah. But it's not necessarily a drawback because those are things that are teachable. You can't necessarily teach good character in leadership. And
you can, but if you naturally have it, that's a benefit.
You're just harder to work with if you have terrible character.
Right.
So, but with him, one thing that constantly came up was the fact that with his leadership ability on the ice, he likes to control the play. He would rather act than react. He wants to be able to have that play well within his grip and to be able to determine the outcome. So that's really cool that he's actually thinking that far ahead, and that's the style that he has. He might be one of those guys that helps his line mates get better, and he might not get all the points, but if it's making the plays and getting the goals, then I don't mind so much.
Yeah, and the next guy we chose was Oscar Plandowski. He's a defenseman. He was in the 5th round. Yeah, he was in the 5th round. It turns out that Yzerman actually knew him as a kid, and that his dad is actually part of the staff of Arizona Coyotes. So it's kind of funny to see, because as you know, Yzerman played for the Red Wings, Draper played for the Red Wings. So as they talk about these kids they're drafting, they end up knowing the parents, they end up knowing...
Their kids grew up together.
And that's not why, and they both say that that's not like a prerequisite to being chosen. It just happens to, you're all in the hockey community. That speaks to them also being raised around the sport, being indoctrinated in the sport, so that all plays into the hockey IQ. So he is a defenseman. He's versatile right and lefty. So the thing that Yzerman was saying that they were looking for in this draft was a right D. So just because we have a lot of left right now in our roster, so that's a really great thing to note as well, because I usually don't look at the left and right.
I don't either.
Something that I'm guilty of not looking at, like, they're on the ice and they're great. So.
Good job. With Plandowski, his high ice time, his ability, his stamina, and his skating were things that were all highlighted, not only by Draper and Yzerman, but just scouting reports, just generally speaking. They all say that he has a very, very strong transition time. He's able to kind of maneuver himself very quickly, but his acceleration is really good as well.
Which is huge for a D.
And fun fact about Plandowski, really early on in his career, he actually started off as a forward and then made the transition to a defenseman. So in his mind, and you can just imagine how that's going to play into more of a two-way style. If he has the forward mindset, but also the defensive mindset, is that two-way game everyone's after.
Especially the Red Wings.
Yes.
I feel like everybody we draft, and when you listen to Yzerman or Draper talk about the draft, they're always looking for two-way players. And we always talk about this, and I think Plandowski is no exception to that.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Exactly. And he did. We got him out of the QMJHL. Yeah. So he didn't have too many points, being that he's a defenseman.
17 points in 39 games. Actually, I would say that is pretty good.
That's good. I didn't say it was bad.
No, I know. I'm just saying that it's nothing.
We're fighting.
It's nothing to discredit. That's for sure. And anytime they have any amount of points. To me, if they get drafted and they're on the draft list and they are high enough and important enough for any team to look at, I feel like even they're all going to have to prove themselves. If you got 1 point,
there's something else.
The first round pick has to prove themselves. So it's like, it does, to me, you look at the points, and they'll even say this too. A lot of it's analytical, and a lot of it's also seeing, them play yourselves and if they stand out on the ice. And sometimes that doesn't always get points.
That's true.
But I feel like we're going to have a pretty high point producing team once all these guys start coming through.
Once they grow up.
So the last one, once they grow up, the last guy that we chose in the 7th round, we actually ended up trading. We got 8 picks, but we ended up trading a lot of picks for different
higher round.
Yeah, getting higher, and that's fine. That works out. That's why you have a lot of picks, and they don't like to do that really. No. But we ended up getting Pasquale Zito was the last guy that we picked. Mm-hmm. He's a left winger. He didn't actually play last season. He had no games played.
0 points.
So last year, of course, was super weird for everybody.
It's the silly season, remember?
Yeah, the silly season. So that actually isn't something that seemed to bother, clearly he was drafted, didn't seem to bother any of the scouting staff, simply because he's a driven player and he's very motivated. And those two characteristics work as far as like, these guys, you have to see them anyway prove themselves, like I just said. Yeah. So like he's going to come out, he's going to have to prove himself, basically, and see where he fits.
He did have, in 2019 to 2020, he did get a little bit of a taste of it because he is with the Windsor Spitfires, and I believe he's contracted through them for this next season too. But he did get some ice time as a rookie. He had a little bit of production there, got his feet wet, so it's not like he's without a higher level of experience. It's just the
most recent season that everyone looks at, he didn't play in.
Right. But they still have, they have footage and everything, and they've gotten to know and interview him personally, and something that stuck out with him would be kind of his edge and his grit. And when talking to him, he describes himself as an emotional player. He really highly admires the Tkachuk family, which should tell you what kind of emotions he plays with.
Grit.
He is passionate in the best sense, of course. But those are characteristics, and across the board, like we've said, and like even Steve said, they're looking for a high character team, a leadership team. And if Zito can really prove himself, if he is as motivated and determined as he puts himself out to be, being picked in the 7th round shouldn't be that huge of a hurdle. Anyone and everyone has the opportunity, and it's an equal opportunity with where they're at in the pipeline. And stranger things have happened. There have been many late round picks who have gone on to be incredible NHLers.
And all of you as hockey fans know this. Like, it is not unheard of for that to happen. So that even as low as they get picked, it really doesn't make a huge difference. If they put in the work and they impress the brass, that's really all that matters. Because there's still guys in the system now. They're in the same position. They also have to put in the work. They also have to show that they deserve to be there. Yeah. Sider has to prove it, and Zito has to prove it. Yep. So it's very...
Wait, Sider has to prove it?
What? That's a whole nother video. Yeah. But, so this is all this wrapping into each other. All of them in common have the ability, the two-way play. Mm-hmm. That would be a big thing I see. The character, they always look for that. And just the fact that all these guys have to work very hard to impress the scouting, impress the development team. But there's definitely room for all these guys coming up in the system. This year's Red Wings team is going to look a lot different, I think, than the last Red Wings teams that we've seen, and it's just going to get better and better.
I believe, too, like all of these picks from this last season, especially coming off of the odd season we had, anyone picked with this and anyone eligible for the draft that made it on anyone's list, it shows their development determination in their own personal games. They didn't have people telling them to get to the rink or to go work out this whole last season if they didn't play. So just the fact that this already shows that they have a little bit of an edge when it comes to their own personal development and holding themselves accountable, that's awesome.
I feel like with a lot of these guys, it's just business as usual. It's kind of like anybody in the world. You figure out how to get to work, you figure out how to make money, you figure out how to sustain your life, provide for yourself,
keep going,
all that kind of stuff. And I don't think it's any different for these kids who are learning how to do that themselves. And as they get into the higher leagues, they're not alone. They have all the development team around them, but they also don't have like the billet families or anything like that. So they just have to figure out how to keep going and get that strong group around them. And I think that being drafted to the Red Wings is a huge plus in that, because I don't think there's a team out there who takes better care of their developed or their development. We could be, but So
what do you think, final thoughts, this coming season? what are you most excited about with our prospects?
I'm
to look forward to.
I think we're going to see so many guys that we have been waiting to see. Like, even at the tournament coming up, we're so excited. We hope that Lucas Raymond will be there. We hope we're going to see Sider. We're hoping to see Berggren. I mean, even seeing the goalies that we have in the system, I'm just excited to see. See, we've lost a lot of vets. We've lost a lot of guys on the Griffins that we've watched for years. But now,
it's
coming
made way for the guys that we've been waiting
for. It's all the
for
guys that we wanted to see.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
These guys have been overseas. They can't exactly bootleg all their video. You
know? We don't bootleg video. But yeah, that's what I'm most excited to see. So like I said, the Prospect Tournament is happening in September, Center Ice Arena, Traverse City, Michigan. Come if you can. If not, I do believe that the Red Wings put it on their YouTube. So you can also see it there. And that's just a great way to see where the prospects are starting. That's the first glimmer that even the Red Wings staff has at all of the prospects that can get there at once on the ice.
Well, and it's all the other teams too. There's 5 total teams this season. It's a little cut back than what it usually is, but you get to see all these other teams' prospects, who you're going against, and some of these kids are invites from colleges and around the world. They're not even drafted kids.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Huge opportunity.
On our team, we might see a prospect that was with another team last year. So there are some invitees as well as our guys. And the thing is, they're all on the same plane. They all have to prove it. They all have to. That's what I love, I guess.
And we'll be in the front row, just
where we always are.
So excited.
But yeah, so that's happening in September 15 to 20, Traverse City, Michigan, Center Ice Arena. So get tickets if you can, watch online if you can. It's just going to be a great time to see some of the prospects that we've been waiting to see. And
very impatient.
It's just going to be very exciting. So yeah, those are the last 3 of the draft. Let us know what you think of these last 3 if you're familiar with them. And let us know what you think about the draft as a whole. How did the Red Wings do? How did you like? Yeah, grade it. How did you like how they performed? Who are you most excited for? And we will see you guys next time.